here's an example that your dog is relying on food. If your dog will gladly and easily do a behavior if you have food. So this means that they know what you want from them, but they don't necessarily know that they need to do it regardless if you have food or not. Welcome back, beautiful people, to another episode of the Pack Leader Mentality Podcast. Layla's back. You guys notice anything different? Those of you watching, do you see anything different? This is actually not Layla. This is Lila, her twin sister.
Okay, that was really weird.
I'm just playing. No, the plant is new. We got a new plant back here. It's a new plant. Layla doesn't have a twin sister. That was a joke.
Can we just restart this?
No, we're going to keep rolling with it.
No, this is weird.
No, it's not weird. I like it. This is fun.
It was a dad joke that did not work, sir.
It worked.
I did
laughed
not.
And you laughed, and I'm sure everyone else is laughing.
I would beg to disagree.
We're rolling with it.
All right.
Today, I'm excited because we have a nice, I would say like a hot topic.
Yeah. And it's not a question.
It's not a question. No, it's not a question.
I think I'm becoming a permanent fixture, questions or not.
Yeah.
I like
we
it
don't
that
need
way,
questions to have Layla join us. She's just going to be here to be maybe the voice of reason, the voice of the client, if you will, right? Or just a fresh perspective. Who knows? Anyway, so today's topic is 5 reasons your dog doesn't listen to you. That's
a good one.
Why is it a good one?
I think it's such a great topic because when I go through inquiries, of clients reaching out to you, that's up there of my dog doesn't listen. How do I get my dog to listen? Yeah. Or my dog listens here and there, So this is such a great topic. I'm actually really excited to talk about it. And I know that it will give so much perspective for you guys out there listening, to have a better understanding of why and how to manage that.
Yeah, how to fix it. Yeah, that's like probably the most common thing someone says to me is, I just want my dog to listen to me. To which I always respond, give me an example.
Yeah.
Because normally it's like, yeah, the dog's not listening, but there are a lot of factors and like things that could be addressed. Like one common one is usually my dog is in the yard and I tell them to come inside and they don't come inside. And that's very common. Or my dog just won't stay, like on their bed or in a sit or whatever.
Or what about, my dog will sit at home, but as soon as we go outside and I ask for a sit,
they blow
goes
you
out
off.
the window.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we're gonna dive into all that today. And I'm excited too because I feel like I got some gems that I'm gonna drop and I love that, right? So, and it's recorded. It's forever on the internet. All right, let's jump into it.
Like this plant keeps attacking me in the background.
It's got a crush on you.
Jeez, I just randomly feel like I'm being poked. Okay, sorry.
Kind of are though.
Peeping out of the bushes. Hi, guys.
All right, we're gonna have to adjust the set later. We're jumping into it. All right, so yeah, reason number 1, and this is in no particular order, right? I just laid out probably the 5 common reasons, and
I say the reason,
you say the whys, right? Okay, some extras.
Okay.
All right, you want to say it? Go ahead. What's reason number 1?
Reason number 1: they don't actually understand what you want.
No, they don't. What that means is a lot of people have the idea that their dog is listening, or that their dog understands what they want, but the truth is that the dog doing it a few times doesn't constitute their understanding of it in its entirety. As an example, right? If you start a new job and I'm training you to do a task that you've never done before, and you do it a few times, and then I ask you 3 days later to do that task, and then I get mad at you because you didn't do it correctly or because you're not doing it.
Or you went on vacation for a month and you come back.
Exactly. And you haven't thought about it or whatever. So that's a really good example and way to frame it and to think about it from your dog's perspective. If you haven't trained something enough, then they don't really understand what it is that you want. And another thing to understand with that is that if the context has changed, if the circumstances have changed, then that also can change their understanding. A good example is if you train your dog to sit and wait for their food, right? So you tell your dog to sit, you put their food down, and the dog gets up and you take the food away. And so in that particular context, they understand that if they don't stay in their sit and wait for you to release them, then they're not going to eat their dinner. But when you go outside and you ask your dog for a sit and there's another dog walking by, they don't stay in their sit. And you would think that because your dog understands the word sit and what it means in the context of dinner time, that they should sit when you have another dog walk by. But the truth is that the reason why they're not is because they don't fully understand that, because you haven't worked with them to the same degree that you have at home, right? So that consistency, every time you picked up the bowl, that taught your dog you're not going to get what you want unless you sit. In the context of walking by another dog or maybe meeting another dog, your dog hasn't learned that in order for them to meet that dog, they need to also stay in the same sit, right? And in that location. So it's really, really important to understand that you have to like repeat the exercise over and over, and you have to train in different contexts if you want them to listen to you in different contexts. And one last thing I want to say about repetition is this is the same way that we learn, the same way that kids learn. Think about elementary school. How many times did you have to repeat a math problem? What's 2 plus 2?
4.
What's 2 plus 5?
7.
What's 1 plus 3?
4.
All right. See, why does she know that?
I'm
Because
smart.
she said it like 1,000 times when she was in elementary school. No, but in all seriousness, the repetition just can't be ignored. It has to be a part of your training, and you have to use it as well. So what are your thoughts?
Well, this actually makes me think of the way you explain how dogs learn in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I always love that example when you give to your clients, because at least when I heard it, it was like, okay, that makes sense why I need to, like you said, train here and then change the context and then train
Yep.
here and kind of build them up to that. So maybe you can go into more detail.
Yeah, so dogs do learn in pictures, and so do we, right? When we think of something, we have an image in our mind. More than likely, a lot of people think that way. I'm sure some people think differently, but a lot of us have an image in our mind. So if your dog is not used to seeing that image in a new location, then they won't understand. So yeah, that's another way to look at it too, is that dogs think in images.
Like in pictures. And so when they learn here, there, everywhere, they start to connect those dots or those pictures together for the whole.
Yeah, sit, means sit on wherever we go.
Yeah.
Down is down wherever we go. Heel is heel wherever we go.
Yeah.
Come is come wherever we go. Really, really important. So what's number 2? What's the second reason?
Number 2, you've misused or heavily relied on food, which is a misuse in training.
Yeah, people constantly misuse food in training. Or again, like you said, they heavily rely on food, so the dog becomes dependent. Mm-hmm. And in all honesty, this is an issue where I can understand, like some trainers, I'm sure you've heard, don't recommend using food. And while I don't agree with that, I can understand where they're coming from, because it can become a hindrance if you don't know how to train your dog with food. They can get stuck depending on it and needing that. So here's an example that your dog is relying on food. If your dog will gladly and easily do a behavior if you have food. So this means that they know what you want from them, but they don't necessarily know that they need to do it regardless if you have food or not. What would be important there is to teach your dog that even without food, they still need to do what you need to do. And we'll get into a little bit more of that later. An example too of a way that people likely misuse food is that they only train with food in their hand, like in a bag, or just the food straight up in their hand. Yeah. So I've seen people do that all the time, and even clients that I work with who I've said to them, hey, get like a training bag so you can have it on your side, maybe behind you, so it's not the focal point of training. And I'll get to the house and I'm like, you ready? Like, let's grab some food. And they grab a Ziploc bag and they're holding a Ziploc bag, and I'm like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, well, the dog hears the noise, everything. They see it. So
yeah, I mean, in addition to the fact that it's very difficult to handle a leash, handle the dog on the leash, and have a Ziploc bag full of food in your hand the whole time.
For sure.
But more important with respect to the topic is you're making the food in your hand the focal point. So yeah, of course your dog is going to do whatever you want. You're literally holding a bag of food and your dog's like, sure, what do you want me to do? Like, tell me.
Yeah.
You want me to do the down? You want me to do the rollover thing? And so putting the food away and not making it a part of you can use it, but not making it the focal point of your training.
Like having it be in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, just so we're clear, I lure dogs, right? So I'll lure a dog with food in my hand when I'm teaching them a new behavior or guiding them, but I quickly move away from the lure. And another way to kind of frame that is a lot of people get stuck in this loop of, I would call it like bribing the dog, where you're offering food first. Mm-hmm. And I would like to give an example. Imagine we're friends, right? And I say to you, hey, I'll give you $100 if you help me move a couple of boxes. And you're like, hell yeah, I'll do it. And now what if I just asked you to help me move a couple of boxes, and then after you help me move them, I gave you $100? In that example, the $100 is more like a reward versus how do I know that you actually helped me because we're friends and not because I offered you $100?
Right.
You
wouldn't know.
Yeah, exactly. And when you train dogs, if you're always offering them food first, you're basically teaching them, I would call it a bribe, and you're teaching them to expect a promise of food before they even do anything. So it's important to move away from that and actually make your dog, have them do the behavior first, and then possibly reward them with a food reward after. Another really common mistake I see in the realm of misusing food is rewarding mistakes. So people do this all the time. And another example that I like to give, we're going to put your money on the line. Imagine that you're paying me $10 to sit in the seat and I get up from the seat. So you touch my shoulder, you put me back down, and then you give me $10. And then 10 seconds later, I stand back up, and then you tell me, you put me back in the chair, and then you hand me $10. How long is it going to take me to realize that I can actually manipulate you to pay me $10? And how long is it going to take you to realize that I'm actually manipulating you to pay me $10? And so when we put your money on the line, I think it would probably hit home a little harder, right? Versus, just thinking about it from the dog. But I mean, really think about that for a sec. If you're paying your dog every time they make a mistake and you put them back in position and then you feed them, aren't they just learning to get up and make the mistake because we're creating this sort of behavioral loop. Right? That just keeps on happening. It's crazy. It's like little things like that when I'm working with people that I see all the light bulbs go off in their mind. Yeah. And they're like, oh my God, I've been doing that the whole time.
Yeah. So would you say to, like, in regards to food, would you recommend then, let's say I'm teaching my dog sit or refreshing that behavior, if I kind of go back and forth between a food reward and maybe just a praise or a pet, and not always rewarding when I'm training that behavior with food?
Yeah. So basically, like, another way to say it is mix it up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So give some food,
Simple,
maybe a little pet praise. Yeah, absolutely. Mix it up. So I, kind of put the food reward on a random schedule. Think of it like gambling at a casino. Right. You know what I mean? So yeah.
You don't know when you'll win.
Yeah.
But you'll win.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So,
okay. Cool.
Misusing food. Reason number 2.
And reason number 3. You're all talk and no action.
Yeah. Big problem. Big problem. I see it all the time. People just talking to their dogs.
And the dog does kind of, like, understand.
Yeah. And I mean, let's put it this way, right? You yell at your dog to stop doing something and they stop momentarily and then they continue doing it again. Whatever it might be, right? Let's just say they're barking at somebody in the yard and you're like, hey, knock it off. And the dog stops for a second and then they start again. And then you yell, hey, knock it off. And they stop and then they start. And then you're just playing this game. What they're really realizing from you is that you just stay back over there and you just yell a lot. I mean, and for all they know, you're probably barking with them. I've told some of my clients, I'm like, you know what? The next time that you decide to yell at your dog, instead of yelling words, I want you to bark at them. And they look at me and I'm like, I know it's insane, right? Like, I don't actually want you to do that, but I I do want you to think about me telling you that, because it's absurd for you to continue to just yell at your dog without taking any action. If you want to be firm and go, hey, knock it off, I'm okay with that. But at least get up
And
and take
follow
and
through.
follow through and take
Yeah.
action. So you have to follow through. Otherwise, your dog will learn that, again, you're just words. It's just, they're empty. I hate to use the word threat, because I don't think that we should ever threaten our dogs. But I think, again, to put it in perspective for us as humans, they're just empty threats. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but you don't do anything. You just sit there and you yell and you complain and you get frustrated, which ultimately leads to other issues because you're getting frustrated,
Right. And now your dog's doing it, but behind your back when you're not looking.
Yeah. Or, you get so mad to the point where now the dog is,
Afraid of you.
submissive and, afraid of you, or maybe they become defensive, and they start to growl at you, to which you punish that even more. And then you just have, again, it just turns into a hot mess. Here's an example too. If let's say I'll use a basic obedience command like sit, your dog, you tell them to sit, they get up, and in some cases people just let that go, or they say something like, no, sit, 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 sit. And they're just kind of waiting for the dog to make the decision to sit. And so what I say, and a good way to look at taking action, is make your dog sit. Ideally, if they're struggling with this, you should have them on a leash to be prepared and walk them through it and be consistent and make a habit of having them listen to you. But if you don't, worst case scenario, guide them into a sit physically. Make them do it every single time and follow through. Whether that's them getting off their bed, you make them get back on their bed, getting up from a down, not coming when called, guiding them to you. In a lot of cases, a leash is going to be your best friend if you have a dog that's not listening to you and you're all talk, no action. Having a leash on them allows you to be able to take action. Simple things like that.
And may I add?
Yeah, please do.
Also, a lot of times what I see too is that, let's say people put their dog on place.
Yep.
And 3 minutes go by and they forget about the dog.
Yeah.
And the dog's coming off the place bed. So now the dog is learning, cool, I can get off at any time. So again, they don't know the command to its fullest, because place is place until released, right?
Yep.
Sit is sit until released. So I know that you mentioned to your clients to, if you see they're getting antsy or you want to release them, make sure that's always on your terms,
Yes.
where you're the one saying, okay, you're free or off, whatever that may be.
No, I love that. Yeah, we can even add just a couple of bonus reasons real quick. Not being consistent and not using release words with regard to obedience, because that's super important.
Yeah.
I always say, if you tell your dog to sit and they sit, that's great. But when do they know that it's okay to get up? And a lot of people you're like, he sits, and then the dog sits and pops right back up. And I'm like, okay, but did you want them to get up right now? Well, not really. Okay, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
And this is, again, taking action. And also, keep in mind, teaching the dog the release word and helping them understand that the release word is a part of the training and what's required for them to get up.
Yeah.
So, nice, good point.
And also it's fair to the dog, because I can't imagine, being told to do something and then just being like, all right, am I staying here forever?
Yeah.
When can I go get water? Or,
Yeah.
my back hurts now. I've been in this position for a long time. So being mindful of that.
The fact that you just used a back pain.
So these are the things you consider when you get
This is
older.
adult life, people. Back pain.
Back pain.
I hear you.
All right.
All right, let's
On
jump
to
into
the
it. What's
next
number
one.
4?
Sir, you do not read these numbers.
I didn't.
do.
I said what's number 4?
You are not valuable to your dog.
Yeah, not being valuable. So the best way to explain not being valuable to your dog is to say that you've allowed your dog to find pleasure in everything except being with you, listening to you, and engaging with you. And some examples of that would be like free and nonstop play. So your dog is just, and before I get into this, I want to say, I'm not implying that your dog can never just freely play and that it always has to be, very militant, or that's how your lifestyle should be with your dog. Like, not at all. However, just always allowing your dog just freedom and everything. They're free to do whatever they want. They jump all over the furniture. They're free to play. They start and end games whenever they want. They're playing with the other dogs, and you never really taught them how to take a break, right? You've never interjected until it just got completely out of hand, or in which case they don't listen to you, right? Or you've never just taught them to, you never had them learn that it's normal for you to sort of interject. And you're another example of too much freedom, if you will, and overstimulation would be like meeting and greeting whoever they want on a walk. So you have your dog on a walk, and you see the neighbor's dog, and your dog's all excited, and they pull you, and there's no structure to it, and you're not valuable to your dog, because when your dog goes outside or when your dog is around new people or new things, all they want to do is engage with those things, not you. And this is something I work on heavily with my clients that have puppies. When we do socialization and training outside the house, I say, bring food, bring toys, bring a good attitude, and have fun with your dog. Do your best to make yourself as valuable to your dog as possible. And when you do that, that doesn't mean that they can never have interactions with other dogs or other people. It just means that you're trying to show them that above all else, you are actually more valuable and more fun than everyone. And some dogs are just naturally like social, like more social than others. And they're like the little mayor. I see a lot with like golden retrievers, for example. They're just, the most friendly and sociable dogs, but it's important to have some structure with that.
So ideally, right, let's use going outside with your dog, how would you structure that? Would it be, the first couple minutes you are walking and you're training them, whether that's walking heel next to you or putting them in a few sits and then releasing them to go sniff, and then you're playing with them first? Or like, how would you, like an ideal outside session with your dog to be able to be more valuable with them? How would you structure that?
Well, first, I would say that it really depends on the dog. So I would always take their interests and likes into consideration, so I'd maybe bring a tug toy or a ball or food or high value food. Maybe I bring kibble and this dog doesn't like it, so I got to grab hot dogs or cheese or beef liver or something like that. But it's a combination of restricting them from having from being able to get to do what they would normally do, which, let's just say, for example, sniffing nonstop. I would not allow that, not because I'm mean, but because I'm trying to bring the dog to me. I'm trying to emphasize our relationship and our engagement. And then with that, when I get the dog to pay attention to me, then I can start to ask them to do things and guide them. And then after we have some engagement, then I can also reward them with the freedom to sniff around or whatever that is. Another example too of having some structure with regard to meeting people, and I can't wait to actually make like a TikTok reel about this so that we can visualize it, but I'll do my best to describe it here. If I have a dog and someone sees my dog or wants to pet my dog, or I know that my dog wants to have an interaction with a person, I'll ask the individual, hey, can you help me train my dog? So if someone says, hey, can I pet your dog? I say, hey, can you do me a favor? And then like, yeah, sure, what's that? And I say, can you help me train my dog? And most people are going to say yes. And so I ask the dog, I say, well, first of all, I walk the person through it. So I'll tell them, I'm going to put my dog in a sit and I want you to try to get them to get up. Their name is Brooklyn. And you're just, you do whatever you want. Clap, do everything apart from touch the dog. So clap, get excited, tap your legs, call them over, whatever, act like you have food. And they'll do all that. And if Brooklyn gets up, I'll go, and put her back into a sit. So I make her sit back down and I say, try again. And then we do that again and then again. And then finally, Brooklyn ignores the person because she's like, it's not worth it. I'm going to be put in a sit anyway. And then at that moment, now when the person tries to get Brooklyn to get up, I give her a reward for not getting up. She looks at me, good girl. She looks at me more, good girl. Try to get her to get up again. She ignores that person. Good girl, here's a reward. And I'm teaching my dog that even though this person is in front of you and they're really fun and seemingly valuable,
I'm still a stranger danger.
I'm more valuable though, right? Yeah. I have the food. And you also have to wait for me, and it's structured. And then after that, then I actually say to Brooklyn, okay, you're free. Go say hi.
Yeah.
So she can get what she wants, right? And so your dogs can get what they want, but you're becoming more valuable, and through that engagement, they're also learning to pay attention to you, which
And
is
look at you for direction.
yeah.
Yeah.
And trust me, like it's really priceless. When we talk about valuable, it's invaluable. It's priceless. It's, people often tell me like, I want my dogs to be like your dogs. And I love that. The truth is that it takes a lot of work. It's not something that'll happen overnight, and it's a relationship thing. It's not, my dogs don't just listen to me because
They listen to you.
yeah, because of like food or even punishment or corrections. It's a part of it is our relationship. I can just walk around outside with absolutely no direction on, with a blindfold on, and my dogs will follow me every which way I go. I could ride a bike. I could try to get away from them if I wanted to. They would follow me everywhere I go. And the reason why they follow me is because I'm valuable to them. There's no command to follow me. I've never taught them, you must follow me. I might teach them heel or with me, and you need to be at my side. But I can, if they're free on their own and I just run away from them, they're going to follow me. And that is a reflection of relationship. And it's just so valuable.
I can attest to that because obviously you know this, but I'm sure some of the viewers don't, that you obviously spend a lot more time with them.
Yeah.
You are the one that is providing that structure and guidance. I follow through with whatever it is that you teach them and show them. But certainly my relationship is nowhere near the relationship you have with them. And when I say I can attest to that, is there are times where, I'll take them on a walk and it's completely different. They listen to me because they kind of have to, but it's not so like I have to remind them.
Yeah.
Versus with you, it's fluid, and it's very rare that you have to remind them. They just do. Mm-hmm. They're like, where are you going? It's like a magnet, where they're just wanting to be everywhere you are. So yeah, absolutely. Not that you don't know that, but that is very
but
true.
It also
what he
reminds me of
says.
times where you'll be with them and maybe I'll show up. Like I remember when you used to do pack walks.
Things go out the window.
And Brooklyn would see me and she'd be with you, and she just wanted to get away from you and be with me. And there's nothing against you, but
yeah, but that's just the way it is. Yeah. So she would literally, it would be so hard to walk because she would, if you were behind me, she would pull me backwards trying to get to you. And there's times where I'm like, take Brooklyn because we're done.
Yeah.
Like it's too much.
Yeah.
Trying to force her to come with me when she wants to be with you, and that's not the point of walks. So,
but to reframe and recap, point number 4, in being valuable, a good way to look at it is just trying to have fun with your dog in a structured way, and it may require you to temporarily not allow them to indulge in the typical things that they want to do, like constant sniffing, for example. Or constantly greeting other people. A lot of times when I work with clients, I'm like, don't let your dog meet anybody for right now. Work on your relationship. Work on having fun with them. Right. And again, to be clear, hear what I'm saying. It's not
forever
punish it. Well, and it's not just, like punish your dog for wanting to say hi to other people. It's not that, right? I'm not saying don't give them a correction, because that might be necessary depending on the dog. But what I'm saying is focus on being valuable. Build your relationship. Then you remember, you're primary. You're the best thing in the world. You're the main attraction. You're the headliner. And then you can start to allow them to indulge and engage with others in a structured way, right? And when you can do this, you will 100% see a big difference in how they listen to you and pay attention to you and look to you. And it's amazing.
All right, let's number 5?
Yeah, number 5.
Your dog dictates when you have interactions with them. Too much freedom and free attention.
Yeah, so very, very common. I see this so much with dogs. And, not to call out any particular dog breed, but I tend to see this a lot with lots of dogs. But I think more commonly recently is like doodles. They can be really learn to become very, very pushy, and they dictate everything. And this is another way to kind of frame this is your dog just has way too much freedom. And again, to those listening, I want you guys to understand that I'm not implying that you have to live with your dog in a way that your dog is like some sort of a prisoner or a slave in your home. That's not it, right? That's not how I operate. That's not what I teach. That's not the kind of relationship that I want or recommend having. However, when you have a dog, we're talking about dogs who currently do not listen to you, And the reason, right, is because you allow them to do whatever they want whenever they want. So what I normally recommend and suggest is we have to kind of be really strict. And through that, we can start to get what we want from them and then give them what they want. And a good example is, it's like having a kid who wants to play with their friends or play their video game. Wouldn't it be a good idea to have them do their homework first and then they can play their game? Or wouldn't it be important for them to clean their room first and then they can go to their friend's house and play? It's the same idea. So if we have a dog who's constantly coming up to me wanting attention and jumping all over me and this and that, wouldn't it be a good idea to teach that dog sit and have them sit first in order to get attention? Wouldn't it be important to ask the dog wouldn't it be important to have the dog require permission to come up on the couch so they don't just jump up on the couch and run around the couch and have this sort of rambunctiousness to their behavior? Another way that I like to frame it for my clients is, imagine you're in a relationship with a person who is like constantly saying, hey, rub my shoulders, give me a back rub. And then, the game comes on and they're like, okay, don't touch me. Leave me alone. I'm watching football right now. Right. And then when there's a commercial break, they're like, all right, rub my shoulders again. Where were we? Just imagine being with a person like that. And imagine if the dog could verbalize their actions. That's what they would say. They'd be like, pet me, touch me, give me attention. All right, leave me alone.
Oh my gosh. That's such a good perspective, because I would never think of it that way. And I'm sure most people wouldn't. But when you put it that way, it makes total sense. Like, who would want to be in a relationship like that, right?
Yeah,
so
it's terrible.
How is it different with your dog? That also is a relationship.
Exactly. And this is what, I'm really preaching to everybody, is having a good relationship. And this is just another way to have some structure. And again, you might need to be pretty strict with your dog in order to start implementing this. And that's okay. It doesn't mean, like, for example, with Brooklyn and Logan, they come up to me quite a bit. Logs is like, oh, he's moaning and, making his little sounds, and it's fine. I don't mind that. My dogs can come up to me and sort of be a little pushy. Why is that though? Am I a hypocrite? No. It's because at any point I can tell my dogs, go lay down, and they'll immediately go lay down. I can say to them, please go away, and they'll literally go away, right? I have the ability to communicate with them verbally and have this relationship where I can tell them what to do. So because of that, because I know that they listen to me, they have a lot more freedom. And this is ultimately the goal, is to be able to have the dogs that can be themselves, because occasionally we might need to go, hey, relax, go sit down. Mm-hmm. And they do that, right? But if we don't have that relationship, then we kind of have this chaotic lifestyle with the dog where they are absolutely crazy. They're wild. They're rambunctious. They don't listen to us. We've given them everything they want. So they're like an entitled little kid who just thinks the world is owed to them. And
you can't trust them.
Yeah, and you can't trust them, and it's ridiculous. So again, to reiterate, it's important to have some structure and teach your dog. I like to call it a learn to earn, right? Like lifestyle or relationship, to where you ask your dog to do something. Maybe that's just being calm and being relaxed when you first have company come over, right? So when I say to ask them, we're not really asking them like, hey, can you please go over there and be quiet and be calm? No, you're essentially making them calm and quiet before they get attention. You have to be quiet for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes before so-and-so comes over and says hi to you. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to put it. And when you learn to do this, you can actually create more calmness. You have a dog that learns that they can get what they want by, it's kind of like reverse psychology. They can get what they want by doing what it is that we want from them first. And we can give them what we want to ultimately give them because they're well behaved enough and they're doing the right things.
And they get more freedom.
Yeah.
So it's just, when you hear stuff like that, it's like, gosh, I have to be strict with my dog now. Or maybe you're raising them and you're like, does that mean I have to do this forever? And the answer is no. It's just building a great solid foundation.
Yeah.
Or if you already have some of these issues, you're rebuilding a strong, solid foundation. And once you've done that and you've put in your time, it becomes so much easier for you to manage, right?
Yeah.
And in return, your dog actually gets a lot more freedom and you can trust
Way
them.
more. Yeah. Yeah.
And know that they're good versus like, okay, I don't know, it's a wild card. What are we going to get today?
Yeah. Another example that I like to give my clients when I'm working with them and we're starting to implement structure and it feels kind of strict, I let them know, I'm like, listen, I'm asking you to put your dog in a sit every time you open a door right now before they go outside to the bathroom. Something as simple as that, and people might think, man, that's kind of excessive. And I say to them, just so you know, I did this with my dogs. I no longer do this with my dogs. Occasionally, and at any time that I want, before I open the door, I can say, Brooklyn, Logan, sit. They sit, I open the door, and they look at me, and they wait, and I go, okay, you're free.
Yeah,
and
but
I'll do that.
They're also great. Like when we open the door, nobody's bum rushing the door. Nobody's
exactly.
It's very smooth. They just go in, go out.
Well, and I give that example though because I don't always make them sit before I let them out to the bathroom. But when I was training them and creating habits of using sit, I did that, and I knew that I was doing that not because every single time they go to the bathroom, they must sit because I'm the boss. No, it's because I was trying to create structure and I was making habits so that if I did need to put them in a sit, because maybe the neighbor's cat is walking along the wall, right? And I don't want them chasing the cat. I can ask them to sit and they'll see it and they'll get maybe because for the record, my dogs don't really care about cats. However, we have a neighbor with a cat that roams around and they don't really like the cat in our yard. And I don't blame them. So this is actually a real example that I'm giving here. But again, I don't ask them to sit every single time. But I can do that whenever I want.
I have nothing else.
You have nothing else? That's it? I was expecting you to chime in again.
Well, in regards to the numbers, but just to kind of add into what you were saying about the dog sitting at the door, that also creates context for the dog, right? Like it serves another purpose of you have to sit here too.
Yeah.
You have to sit here too.
Exactly.
Like everywhere we go.
And if you think about...
If I'm commanding you to sit, well, commanding sit sounds so tough.
Telling you.
But like you sit wherever you're being asked to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you think about everything that I mentioned here today, it's all connected in some way or another. And the funny thing is, this is actually one of the issues that I had when I first started with like social media, because one topic kind of led into another. And it's like, you could be there forever. You wanted to make a 30-second video and you're there 30 minutes later talking about, something that seems completely unrelated. But I think that's it for today though. I've really enjoyed this. I like hitting up a fresh topic, and we've got some questions on the way for the next episode. So if you guys want or have questions that you want answered,
submit them now.
Throw them in there. Instagram at lead. What's my Instagram? No, that's my email.
Leader of the Pack LV.
My Instagram at Leader of the Pack LV. Email is info@leadyourpacklv.com. And was there anything else I wanted to say?
Yeah, by the way, title it podcast question so we know.
Yeah, and also fun fact, just a little plug, shameless plug, if you will. But yeah, a lot of the things I talked about today, I cover in my pack leadership course. And I think it'll be extremely beneficial for those of you who are struggling with a dog who doesn't listen to you, or some behaviors like not, laying down when you ask them to, just some general control over the dog in the house. And really, I like to call it like foundation, some foundational training.
And also what I like about, there's so many amazing things with the course to unpack, but one of the things too is often we see people using training tools and they're not fitted properly. And this course goes over that too, of how to properly fit, regardless of the training tool, on your dog to, for it to be effective. So that's in there too.
Yeah. Lots of stuff in there that'll be beneficial. Yeah. But if you guys want to check that out, I'll throw it up on the screen, but it's lotpk9training.com. And if you guys have questions, please shoot them over. Until next time, see you guys later.
Bye.
Peace.